My name is Sarah Bennett. I'm 38 years old. 6 months ago, I buried my husband and 2 children, alone, while my parents attended my sister's birthday party instead. When I called them, sobbing, breaking the news that Michael, Emma, and Noah had been killed by a drunk driver, my father's response shattered what was left of my heart. Today is Jessica's birthday. We can't come. Those 7 words ended more than just a phone call. They ended my role as the family doormat. But what my family didn't know was that my husband's death would trigger something they never saw coming. The $5 million life insurance policy was only the beginning. The real shock came when they discovered what I had built from the ashes of my loss splashed across the front page of our local newspaper. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we begin this difficult journey, take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if this story truly speaks to you. And I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, let me take you back to the morning that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning in March. Michael had just finished making dinosaur-shaped pancakes for Noah, our 6-year-old, while Emma, 8, practiced her violin in the living room. I remember kissing them goodbye at 7:45 a.m. Michael's coffee breath mixed with maple syrup as he whispered, "Love you, Sarah. See you tonight for Taco Tuesday." Those were his last words to me. At 8:17 a.m., a semi-truck driver, who'd been driving for 16 hours straight, ran a red light at the intersection of Maple and 3rd. The police said Michael never had a chance to react. The impact was instant, catastrophic. They told me later that none of them suffered, as if that was supposed to bring comfort. I was in a client meeting when the call came. "Mrs. Bennett, this is Officer Davidson with the state police. There's been an accident." The room tilted. My assistant's voice turned into white noise. Somehow, I made it to the hospital, though I don't even remember driving there. The corridor to the morgue stretched endlessly, fluorescent lights humming their cold, mechanical sympathy. I won't describe the identification process in detail. There are some images that should never live in anyone else's mind. I'll just say this: I had to identify them separately. First Michael, then Emma, then my baby, Noah. Each white sheet lifted was another piece of my soul being torn away. The officer's words echoed hollow. There was nothing they could have done. The drunk driver walked away with minor scratches. He'd been arrested at the scene. His blood alcohol was 3 times the legal limit, at 8 in the morning. I called my parents from the hospital parking lot. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. Mom answered on the 3rd ring, laughter in the background. "Mom," I choked out. "They're gone. Michael, Emma, Noah, they're all gone." Silence. Then my father's voice took over. "What do you mean gone?" Through sobs, I explained. The accident, the drunk driver, the morgue, the funeral arrangements I needed to make. His response came calm, almost detached. "Sarah, today is Jessica's birthday. We've had the country club booked for months. We can't come." But the real nightmare hadn't even begun. To understand the weight of my father's words, you need to know our family dynamic. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the quiet, dependable daughter who never caused trouble and never asked for much. Good daughters don't keep score. "Sarah," my mother would say whenever I pointed out the unfairness. When I was 17, I gave up my full scholarship to Northwestern so Jessica could use my college fund for her gap year in Europe. She needed to find herself, my parents said. She found plenty of parties and came back with nothing but Instagram photos and debt. When Mom had her hip surgery 5 years ago, I took 3 months of unpaid leave to care for her. Jessica was too busy with her new boyfriend, her 3rd that year. I slept on a cot in Mom's living room, managing her medications, cooking every meal, driving her to every appointment. The day Mom could finally walk again, Jessica showed up with flowers and got all the credit for being such a devoted daughter. At my wedding, Jessica announced her first pregnancy during my reception. When I was promoted to senior partner, her divorce drama took the spotlight instead. Every milestone in my life became background noise to Jessica's endless theater. Michael was the only one who truly saw it. "They've trained you to disappear, honey," he once said after a brutal family dinner, one where I'd cooked for 6 hours, only for Jessica to show up late with takeout because she'd forgotten I was cooking. "But they're my family," I'd always say. He'd hold me close and whisper, "Family shouldn't make you feel invisible." Now, Michael was gone. My children were gone, and my parents couldn't even interrupt Jessica's birthday party to stand by me through the worst day of my life. Good daughters. Don't keep score, but I had finally started counting. "We can't disappoint her," my father continued, as if I hadn't just told him his grandchildren were dead. "You know how Jessica gets when plans change." In the background, I heard my sister's voice. "Is that Sarah? Tell her she better not be calling with some crisis today." "Robert, please," I begged. "I need you. I need Mom. I can't do this alone." "You're strong, Sarah. You'll manage. We'll call you tomorrow." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, certain I'd misheard. I stared at my phone, certain I'd misheard. My hands were still covered in Noah's favorite dinosaur Band-Aids, from where I'd scraped them falling in the hospital parking lot. My children were lying in a morgue, and my parents couldn't be bothered to leave a birthday party. I called back immediately. Mom answered this time. "Mom, please." The funeral home needs decisions. I don't know how to bury my babies. Her voice was whisper soft, the way it always got when she didn't want to upset my father. "Your dad's right, sweetie. Jessica's been planning this for months. All her friends are here. We can't just leave. My children are dead." I screamed into the phone. Several people in the parking lot turned to stare. "Don't be dramatic, Sarah. We'll help you next week." "The funeral can wait a few days, can't it?" "The funeral can wait." As if my 6-year-old son and 8-year-old daughter were appointments that could be rescheduled. As if Michael's body wasn't lying on a metal table, waiting for someone who loved him to say goodbye. His next words would haunt me forever. "Today is your sister's birthday. We can't disappoint her." 20 minutes later, as I sat in my car trying to breathe, my phone rang. "Jessica. Why did you have to call during my party?" Her voice was sharp, annoyed. "You've completely killed the mood. Mom's upset, Dad's annoyed, and my friends are asking questions." "Jessica," I said slowly, my voice trembling. "Michael is dead. Emma is dead. Noah is dead," I heard. "That's terrible, really. But why did you have to ruin my special day with your drama? Couldn't this have waited until tomorrow?" "Your drama." As if I'd chosen the timing. As if I'd asked that drunk driver to destroy my family on her 35th birthday. "Are you coming to the funeral?" I asked, my voice hollow. "When is it?" "Friday." "Oh, I can't. James and I have concert tickets. They were super expensive." The funeral was held at St. Mary's Cathedral. Michael's colleagues filled one side. His elderly parents, who had flown in from Seattle despite their health issues, sat in the front row with me. The other side, the side where my family should have been, remained empty. I stood alone between 3 coffins. The smallest one, Noah's, had dinosaurs painted on the side. The funeral director's daughter had heard about his love for them and painted them herself. Emma's had musical notes. Michael's was simple oak, the kind he'd always said he wanted. That night, Jessica posted photos on Facebook from her birthday party. She was laughing, holding champagne, surrounded by friends. The caption read, "Best birthday ever. So grateful for everyone who made today special. Blessed Dr. Birthday Girl, Dr. 35 and thriving." 67 likes. 12 comments about how gorgeous she looked. Not one mention of her dead niece and nephew. "Why did you have to ruin my special day with your drama?" If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, you know this pain runs deeper than words. Take a moment to leave a comment. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family who took you for granted? Your stories help others know they're not alone. And if this resonates with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that their feelings are valid. Now, let me tell you what happened when I finally stopped being the good daughter and started discovering just how much Michael had prepared for this moment, even though neither of us could have imagined it would come so soon. The funeral costs hit immediately. 3 caskets, 3 burial plots, the service. The funeral director's sympathetic smile couldn't soften the $30,000 bill. I sat in his office, staring at the itemized list. The smallest casket was somehow the most expensive. "We offer payment plans," he said gently. Payment plans. As if I'd be paying off my children's deaths like a car loan. Our house was mortgaged to the limit. Michael and I had just renovated the kitchen, thinking we'd have decades of family dinners there. My part-time consulting work barely covered groceries. Michael had been the primary earner, and his income had stopped the moment that truck hit them. His parents offered what they could, but they were on a fixed income. "We have some savings," his mother said, pressing a check into my hand. It was for $5,000, probably everything they had. The life insurance company called while I was choosing flowers for Emma's casket. "Mrs. Bennett, we need to schedule a meeting regarding your husband's policy." "Can't you just mail the paperwork?" I asked. "This is a substantial policy." "Mrs. Bennett, we prefer to handle these matters in person." Substantial. I assumed that meant enough to cover the funeral costs. Maybe a few months of mortgage payments. 2 weeks passed. No word from my family, except a text from Mom. "How are you holding up?" I didn't respond. What was there to say? The house felt like a mausoleum. Me's violin still sat on the music stand. Noah's dinosaurs guarded his unmade bed. At Michael's coffee mug waited by the machine, his fingerprints still visible on the handle. The funeral director's message mentioned urgent matters regarding payment. Knew I had to face reality, but I couldn't seem to move from Michael's side of the bed, where his scent still lingered on the pillows. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard phantom sounds. Emma practicing her scales, Noah's feet thundering down the stairs, Michael's off-key singing in the shower. At 3 a.m., I'd walk to their rooms, hoping against logic to find them there. The neighbors started avoiding me, not cruelly, just awkwardly. They didn't know what to say to the woman whose entire family had been erased in 8 seconds. Ms. Patterson, from next door, left casseroles on my porch but never knocked. 3 weeks after the funeral, I still hadn't heard from my parents. Not one call. Jessica had blocked me on social media after I'd commented on her birthday photos. These were posted the day you chose a party over your nephew and niece's funeral. I existed in a bubble of grief, invisible to the world, the mailbox, filled with sympathy cards from Michael's coworkers, but nothing from my own family. I started wondering if I'd simply cease to exist if I stopped trying. One particularly dark night, I stood on our back deck, looking at the stars. Michael had taught Emma all the constellations. Noah always looked for the dinosaur stars he insisted were there. I thought about how easy it would be to just stop, to join them, wherever they were. The lawyer's message saved me. David Chen had called 3 times, his voice increasingly urgent. "Mrs. Bennett, we really need to discuss your husband's estate planning. There are time-sensitive matters that require your attention." Estate planning. Michael had always been meticulous about details. Even in death, he was still trying to take care of me. I called Chen back the next morning. "Can you come to my office today?" he asked. "What I have to tell you shouldn't wait any longer." The lawyer's message mentioned urgent matters, ones that would change everything. 2 weeks after the funeral, my phone rang again at dinner time. I'd been sitting at the table, staring at 4 empty chairs, eating cereal from the box. Mom's name appeared on the screen. "Hi, sweetie. How are you holding up?" The casual tone, as if she'd been checking in regularly, made my chest tighten. "How do you think I'm holding up?" "There's no need for that tone. I'm calling to help." "Help? Your father and I were thinking, you must have financial things to sort out." "Did Michael leave anything?" There it was. The real reason for the call. "I'm still working through everything," I said carefully. "Well, family helps family, Sarah. If there's life insurance or anything, you should think about sharing. Jessica and James are trying for a baby, and fertility treatments are expensive. Are you seriously asking me for money right now? Don't be selfish, Sarah. Your father thinks you should consider what Michael would have wanted. He was always so generous." I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from grief this time, but from rage. Michael had been generous. He'd lent Jessica $10,000 for her wedding. Never repaid. He'd covered my parents' anniversary cruise. He'd never asked for anything back. The phone rang again. Dad this time. I let it go to voicemail. "Sarah, your mother's upset. You need to apologize, and we need to discuss the financial situation. As your father, I have a right to know what provisions were made. Call me back. As your father, the father who couldn't leave a birthday party for his grandchildren's funeral. My parents, who hadn't even attended their grandchildren's funeral, were now trying to claim parental privilege over my finances." I turned off my phone. For the first time since the accident, I felt something other than grief. It was faint, a small flicker, but unmistakable. Anger. Pure, cleansing anger. 1 week later, Jessica showed up at my door without warning. James was with her, his eyes scanning the visible parts of my house like an appraiser calculating value. "We were in the neighborhood," Jessica said, pushing past me without waiting for an invitation. She had never been in the neighborhood in the 5 years since Michael and I had moved here. "Nice place," James commented, running his hand along the granite countertop Michael had installed himself. "Must be worth what? $500,000? Why are you here?" I asked. Jessica's face shifted into an expression of fake concern. "We're worried about you, Sarah. All alone in this big house. It's not healthy." "You weren't worried about me 3 weeks ago," I said flatly. "That's not fair," she snapped. "We had plans." She wandered into the living room, eyeing the new television, the piano we'd bought for Emma. "You know, this is really too much space for one person." "What are you suggesting?" I asked quietly. James stepped forward. "We could take it off your hands. Family discount, of course. Maybe $300,000. Cash deal. Quick close." The house was worth at least $500,000, even in a fast sale. They both knew it. "You need to leave," I said, my voice steady. "Don't be ridiculous," Jessica shot back. "We're trying to help. You're being selfish, hoarding all this space alone. Get out, Jessica. Get out." They finally left, but not before Jessica threw one last dagger over her shoulder. "Mom and Dad are right about you. You've always been ungrateful. I would never treat family this way." As their car pulled away, I saw James lift his phone and snap photos of the house. They were already planning their next move. Jessica's parting words made it clear. They weren't done with me yet. That evening, my father called. His voice had that same disappointed tone he used when I was a child. "Your sister tells me you were rude to her. She tried to buy my house for $200,000 under market value," I said. "Family helps family," he replied coldly. "Sarah, you need to think about others for once." "For once," my voice cracked. I gave up my scholarship for Jessica. I took care of Mom after her surgery. I've been helping others my entire life. "No one asked you to do those things," he said. "You chose to be a martyr." That word, martyr, hit like a slap. "Jessica needs money for IVF," he continued. "You have a big house, life insurance coming. You could help." Dad, I whispered, I just buried my children. That was a month ago, Sarah. It's time to move forward. Jessica's trying to create life. You should support that instead of wallowing. Wallowing. My 6-year-old son was dead, and I was wallowing. If you don't start thinking about family, he said, we'll have to reconsider our relationship with you. What relationship? I asked. You didn't come to the funeral. You haven't called. You haven't even met me for coffee. We have our reasons. You've always been difficult, Sarah. Jessica would never put us in this position. Then go be with Jessica, I said quietly. Are you giving us an ultimatum? No, Dad, I'm done. If you want to cut me off, then do it. There was a long pause. You'll regret this, Sarah. When you're alone with no family, you'll regret pushing us away. I'm already alone. Then so be it. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, waiting to feel devastated. Instead, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. The next morning, Attorney David Chen arrived at my door. He was a tall, distinguished man in his 50s, carrying an expensive-looking leather briefcase. Mrs. Bennett, he said politely, I apologize for the intrusion, but you haven't returned my calls. I'm sorry, I replied. I haven't been checking messages. May I come in? What I have to discuss is extremely important. We sat in Michael's office. Chen pulled out a thick folder, his expression serious but kind. Your husband, he began, was one of the most prepared clients I've ever had. He updated his will every year, and his life insurance policies are substantial. Policies? I repeated. Yes, plural. Mrs. Bennett, your husband held multiple life insurance policies totaling $5 million. The room spun. That's impossible, I said. We lived paycheck to paycheck sometimes. He was very specific about keeping this private, Chen explained. He said, and I quote, my wife's sacrifices are enough for everyone else. This is for her alone. Chen continued. There are also specific conditions attached to these policies. Your husband was very particular about certain circumstances. What kind of circumstances? I asked. I'll need to review everything with you in detail, he said. But there are provisions involving family members, charitable giving, and some very specific instructions about distribution. Michael planned all this? Yes, Chen nodded. Your husband came to me 8 years ago, right after your daughter was born. He said something I'll never forget. My wife's family doesn't value her, but I want to make sure she's protected if anything happens to me. My eyes filled with tears. Even in death, Michael was still protecting me. There's more, Chen said, pulling out another document. But I think you should read this letter from your husband first. He handed it to me gently. He wrote it 2 years ago, with instructions to give it to you if, well, under certain conditions. A week later, an email arrived from Global Life Insurance. The CEO, Patricia Williams, had requested a personal meeting. This is highly unusual, her email read, but given the circumstances and the size of the policy, I'd like to handle this personally. I Googled her. Patricia Williams, one of Forbes's 50 most powerful women in business. Why would someone like her want to meet with me personally? At her office, Patricia greeted me warmly. She was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with kind eyes behind designer glasses. Mrs. Bennett, she said, I knew your husband professionally. He consulted for us several years ago on a data security project. I hadn't known that. Michael often took on consulting work, but he rarely discussed the details. He impressed everyone here